Hello and welcome to the U.S. Army Junior ROTC Raider Challenge One Rope Bridge Standards video. In this video, we will cover the tasks, conditions, and standards of the One Rope Bridge competition to include authorized equipment, methods, and step-by-step instructions on the tying of all authorized knots. This video is to serve as a supplement to the U.S. Army Junior ROTC Raider Challenge One Rope Bridge SOP, which is the metric in which all teams will be graded during the competition. The One Rope Bridge SOP was developed using standards found in Army TC 3-97.61, Military Mountaineering, dated 26 July 2012. While the TC was referenced for the development of the Raider Challenge SOP, the SOP is the document of record for the Raider Challenge competition. All Raiders and coaches should thoroughly review and ensure they understand the standards as written in the SOP prior to and after watching this video. The task is to construct a rope bridge following the Raider Challenge One Rope Bridge SOP, ensuring safety and utilizing proper techniques. To successfully complete this task, the team must begin building the bridge, finish constructing it, and successfully cross it within a time frame of 8 minutes. All teams will use the same crossing sites with multiple lanes available. Teams will consist of 10 cadets, in which they must start and finish with the entire team. Teams competing with 9 members will be assessed a major penalty. Teams with less than 9 members will not be allowed to compete. Teams are responsible for bringing their own rope bridge equipment, including a minimum of 150 feet of rope. U.S. Army Cadet Command will provide safety helmets, but teams can use their own helmets if desired. If equipment is deemed unsafe or unserviceable by the One Rope Bridge cadre, teams will be issued U.S. Army Cadet Command equipment to complete the lane, or the team captain or coach can choose to forfeit the event. Swiss seats and waist seats must be tied prior to reporting to the rope bridge site. Swiss seats, ropes, and equipment will be checked for safety compliance. No loops, bites, tape, or pre-tied knots are allowed on the rope. Upon arrival at the start point, 2 members of the team will be allowed up to 2 minutes to stage their rope in accordance with the One Rope Bridge SOP. The clock starts upon the command "Go." Cadets will run to the near side anchor point and build their bridge. The team must follow the guidelines outlined in the Raider Challenge One Rope Bridge SOP to cross the river successfully. The near side anchor point must be a round turn and 2 half hitches. The far side anchor point must be a round turn with 2 half hitches, or a tensionless anchor with a minimum of 4 wraps on the anchor. A minimum of 1 steel locking carabiner or 2 steel non-locking carabiners will be used at all anchor points. If the team is using steel non-locking carabiners, the gates must be positioned opposite of each other. The transport tightening system will utilize a wireman's knot or a figure-8 slip knot. Time continues until the entire team and all equipment are out of the water, across the river on the far side of the bank, and all knots and snap links are out of the rope. Team members are not permitted to touch the water unless they are the first or last cadet across the obstacle, or they are suspended from the rope. The team must announce "time" in a loud voice to indicate completion. The team with the fastest time, considering penalty points, will be the winner. All Raiders crossing the One Rope Bridge will utilize a repel seat. The far side and near side anchor personnel may use a waist seat. No harness is required if the anchor personnel choose to secure themselves to the rope with an over-the-shoulder bow line when crossing the water. The repel seat is an improvised seat repel harness made of rope. It usually requires a sling rope of 14 feet or longer. Step 1. Find the middle of the sling rope and make a bite. Step 2. Place the bite on the opposite hip of your dominant hand. Step 3. Reach around behind yourself and grab a single strand of rope. Bring it around the waist to the front and tie 2 overhands on the other strand of rope, creating a loop around the waist. Step 4. Pass the 2 ends between the legs, ensuring they do not cross. Step 5. Pass the 2 ends up under the loop around your waist, bisecting the pocket flaps on your trousers. Pull the ropes and tighten the seat. Step 6. From rear to front, pass the two ends through the leg loops, creating a half hitch on both hips. Step 7. Bring the longer of the two ends across the front to the opposite hip of your dominant hand and secure the two ends with a square knot and overhand safety knots on both sides. Tuck any excess rope in the pocket below the square knot. To ensure a properly tied rappel seat, look for these checkpoints. There are two overhand knots in the front. The ropes are not crossed between the legs. A half hitch is formed on each hip. The seat is secured with a square knot with overhand safeties. During the competition, teams will arrive at the check-in station with their harnesses already tied. Once complete, the team captain will inform their grader they are ready for inspection. It is important to ensure the harnesses are tightened enough to execute this event. Although the grader will inspect for proper construction, if the harness falls below the waist during or after the event, a time penalty will be assessed. If the harness falls during the event, the grader will stop the raider and have them properly tighten their harness before continuing. Time will not stop while this correction is being made. Once the inspection is complete, the team will be instructed to move to the start point. Two team members will be allowed to position their rope next to the anchor point before time begins. Teams will have up to 2 minutes to position their rope. The rope can be backstacked, coiled, chained, folded, or flacked next to the anchor point. The rope cannot be stretched out in any manner. The rope may not be positioned in a way that indicates where knots will be tied or predetermined actions will take place. The exception to this is that approximately 2 feet of the near end and far end may be separated from the rope. Once the rope is in position, the team members will return to the start point. On the command go, the team will begin constructing the one-rope bridge. The far side anchor personnel will secure the rope to their body by connecting a figure-8 loop or bowline to the harness with one steel locking carabiner, tying a bowline through their harness, tying a figure-8 retrace through their harness, or tying a bowline securing the rope over their shoulder. The loop must be over the head and shoulder and must be underneath the opposite arm. Note, all knots must be properly set and dressed during this event. A dress knot is defined by the proper arrangement of all knot parts, removing unnecessary kinks, twists, and slack so that all parts of the knot make contact. In other words, the knots must be properly secured and tightened to be considered safe. As the far side anchor personnel crosses the stream, they must be belayed by members of the team until they are past a predetermined safety point. The far side anchor must be set with all slack removed so the near side may begin tying the transport tightening system in correct place. The two types of anchors authorized on the far side anchor point are a round turn with 2 half hitches or a tensionless anchor secured by a figure-8 with a locking carabiner. This anchor may be adjusted or changed during the construction of the bridge. This anchor will not be adjusted once the bridge is ready to transport personnel. Step 1. Route the rope around the anchor from right to left and wrap down. Run the loop around the object to provide 360-degree contact, distributing the load over the anchor. Step 2. Bring the working end of the rope left to right and over the standing part, forming a half hitch. Step 3. Repeat step 2. Step 4. Dress the knot down. A quick release may be placed in the second half hitch, but is not mandatory. This is done by creating a bite in the rope in the working end prior to placing the working end in the loop created. The anchor is usually tied with a minimum of 4 wraps or more, if necessary, to absorb the tension. A smooth anchor may require several wraps, whereas a rough bark tree might only require a few. The rope is wrapped from top to bottom. A fixed loop, such as a figure 8 loop is placed into the end of the rope and attached loosely back onto the rope with a carabiner. There should be no tension on the figure 8 loop or the carabiner. The team will then construct a transport tightening system approximately 3 feet from the anchor. The transport tightening system may be constructed farther away from the anchor. This depends on the space available between the anchor and the hazard. For this event, teams will only be permitted to use a wireman's knot or a figure 8 slip knot with an additional loop for the fixed loop knot. Step 1. When tying this knot, face the anchor that the tie-off system will be tied to. Take up the slack from the anchor. Wrap 2 turns around the left hand, palm up, from left to right. Step 2. A loop is taken up in the second round turn to create the fixed loop of the knot. Step 3. Name the wraps from palm to fingertips, heel, palm, and fingertip. Step 4. Secure the palm wrap with the right thumb and forefinger. Place it over the heel wrap. Step 5. Secure the heel wrap and place it over the fingertip wrap. Step 6. Secure the fingertip wrap and place it over the palm wrap. Step 7. Secure the palm wrap and pull up to form a fixed loop. Step 8. Dress the knot down by pulling the fixed loop and the 2 working ends. Step 9. Pull the working ends apart to finish the knot. Step 1. Form a 12-inch bite in the end of the rope. Step 2. Hold the center of the bite in the right hand. Hold the 2 parallel ropes from the bite in the left hand about 12 inches up the rope. Step 3. With the center of the bite in the right hand, twist 2 complete turns clockwise. Step 4. Reach through the bite and grasp the long, standing end of the rope. Pull another bite back through the original bite. Step 5. Pull down on the short working end of the rope and dress the knot down. Step 6. Taking the working end of the rope and form a half hitch around the loop of the figure 8 knot. The team will wrap the running end around the anchor and hook the rope into the carabiner placed in your fixed loop knot. 1 steel locking carabiner with the gate locker or 2 steel non-locking carabiners will be used here. If using non-locking carabiners, the carabiners will be in place with the gates opposing each other. Now that the transport tightening system is secure, the far side anchor may pull the knot farther from the near side anchor if required. The far side anchor needs to be retied and tightened if this step is used. The team will then pull the running end of the rope until the bridge is sufficiently tight enough for the team to cross safely. The rope bridge will be secured by a round turn with 2 half hitches, similar to the knot used on the far side anchor point. The difference here is that the half hitches need to be over all ropes between the transport tightening system and the anchor. A quick release may be placed in the second half hitch, but is not mandatory. Once the rope system is secure, the team may begin to load the rope and cross. Once a cadet is on the rope, no alterations or adjustments may be made to any knot throughout the system. Each cadet will clip into the rope using a carabiner hooked through their harness. With the head facing the far side, each cadet will begin pulling themselves across the rope. Only 3 cadets may be clipped into the rope at a time. Here, clear communication is vitally important. If more than 3 cadets are attached to the rope, the grader will make a safety correction by having 1 cadet detach from the rope and a time penalty will be assessed. Team members may and are encouraged to help each other load and unload the rope. This includes members on the far side of the hazard pulling the attached team member onto the unloading platform. However, if any team member, attached or detached from the rope, touches the hazard or crosses into an area labeled as a hazard, the grader will have the team member move to a safe location and a time penalty will be assessed. Once all necessary team members and equipment have been unloaded from the rope, the team may break down the bridge. Remember, all knots must remain in place and untouched while any team member is attached to the rope. The near side anchor person will break down the near side anchor, removing any unnecessary knots. The near side anchor person will then attach the rope in a similar manner as the far side anchor person used. Remember that when any team member is crossing the stream, other members of the team must have positive control of the rope. This is to ensure in the event of a fall or if the current overpowers the team member, they will be able to be pulled to shore. Once the near side anchor person is ashore, the team will continue to remove any knots or equipment from the rope. The rope and equipment will be pulled beyond the far side anchor. Once satisfied that all tasks are complete, all team members will stand with their hands above their heads and the team captain will yell "time," indicating to the grader that the team is complete. Failure to call time will cause the timer to continue to run. If any knots or equipment are left on the rope at the point time is called, a time penalty will be assessed for each knot or piece of equipment left on the rope. Once time has been stopped by the grader, Lane Cadre will assess and compute any penalties and then announce the adjusted final time and number of penalties. Team members or coaches are not authorized to dispute time or penalties with the Lane Cadre. Any disputes about timing or scoring will be addressed between team coaches and the event OIC after the team has vacated the lane. Team members who attempt to argue or dispute Lane Cadre decisions will be disqualified and their dispute will no longer be eligible for protest. Thank you for watching the U.S. Army Junior ROTC Raider Challenge One Rope Bridge Standards video. In this video, we covered the tasks, conditions, and standards of the One Rope Bridge competition to include authorized equipment, methods, and step-by-step instructions on the tying of all authorized knots. This video is to serve as a supplement to the U.S. Army Junior ROTC Raider Challenge One Rope Bridge SOP, which is the metric in which all teams will be graded during the competition. The One Rope Bridge SOP was developed using standards found in Army TC 3-97.61 Military Mountaineering, dated 26 July 2012. While the TC was referenced for the development of the Raider Challenge SOP, the SOP is the document of record for the Raider Challenge competition. All Raiders and coaches should thoroughly review and ensure they understand the standards as written in the SOP prior to and after watching this video.